Hey guys, welcome back to Muslim Minds. Today we're going to react to Andrew Tate talks Palestine and Israel with Piers Morgan.
Let's see what he says. As a new Muslim, that is.
Yeah.
Turn to the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. What is your view of this war?
I think when you call it a war, you're doing a disservice to the people who are having their limbs blown off by some of the most advanced technical weaponry on the planet. It is a
I agree, it's not a war.
genocide, and it is disgusting. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you fall on. When you observe a genocide in front of your very eyes, you should be disgusted.
Which side is waging genocide?
The Israelis are genociding the Palestinians, and you know it as well as everybody else does. Well, then it seems like your bosses are not allowing you to know it.
What do you think of what Hamas did?
Damn.
Wow.
Andrew Tate looks
Sharp.
Yeah, very, what's it called? It's like
Direct.
emotionally filled. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's like very genuine about what
Confident,
he's saying.
yeah.
Piers is so silly sometimes. Who's genociding? It's so
I don't
obvious.
know,
It's
let's
Israel.
look at the numbers.
Doesn't even matter what you think about October
13,000.
7th. What is this is no response that makes sense.
But October 7th is one of the most
14K.
horrible. He's going to mention it. Verbatim, Piers always says that one line.
10,000 children.
Yeah, man. Children, look.
They're children.
Guys, think about it.
They're not
It's a
even
statistic.
graduated high school.
No, they're not even graduating elementary
Yeah.
school. Look, guys, think of it this way, right? Some of you may be thinking, you know what? This is justified because Hamas is bad, meaning we need to get rid of the bad guys. Let's just bomb as many of them as we can. It sucks, but we got to do what we got to do. That kind of lazy thinking is not right. Think about it this way. Imagine it's you or your family. Look, if you're a father, imagine your daughter. If you're a mother, imagine your son. If you're a kid, imagine your brother or yourself, you know?
Your parents.
Your parents. Think about it. Or your friends.
Yeah.
Like,
they become bombed dead in an instant just because they live somewhere. They had no choice.
There are 2 million innocent people that live in Gaza. They're just regular people. They wake up, they eat breakfast with the family, go out for walks, right? They have hopes and dreams and aspirations. They want to get education. Some of them want to be doctors. Some of them want to be YouTubers. Some of them want to be
Getting married, having kids.
married. Now what do you see? You see images of kids, their organs are falling out. Their faces are burned to a crisp. Their limbs are blown off. Those who survive, they say, my mother is gone, my father is gone, my brothers are gone, my aunts are gone. Their whole entire family is gone. It is horrific. Just like you guys say whatever happened to Israel is horrific, innocent civilians dying is horrific. I agree. But why is it not the same for the Palestinians? Why is that justified because of what Hamas did? Couldn't Hamas say the same thing about Israel? You guys, and we both know that this conflict did not start October 7th. Everyone knows Israel and Palestine has had a very messy history. Everyone on the whole earth knows that Israel and Palestine are one of those 8 areas of contention, right? 70 years, it's not just Palestinians are the big bad boogeyman. No, it's their land was taken. They're living in these places that they don't want to. They're relocated. Like 70% of the Gazan people are not even native to Gaza. They're native to other areas of Palestine, right? You have illegal settlements, all this kind of stuff. Innocent people dying, 30 kids, dying in Palestine, West Bank last year. I don't know. The numbers are always insane, right? So what if Hamas just did that as a response to the oppression from Israel, right? You cannot use this kind of justification. The point is that Israel is waging this insane, sick, grotesque retaliation where the 99% of the casualties are civilians, guys. It's as simple as that. And it's wrong. It's sick. Tax dollars are being wasted and kids are being blown to smithereens. They're 50%. I mean, think about this, right? When do you see a population? Gaza's unique, where 50% of the population are children and 50% of the casualties are children. Is there not some kind of special, at least for this kind of population, some kind of special way to go about the situation, at least with mainly focusing on ground troops and not focusing on indiscriminate airstrikes?
The 7th.
Why are you starting the story in the middle?
I
Piers?
didn't. I just asked you about the wider war. I'm now asking you specifically about Hamas.
I cannot professionally answer that question without talking about the context that led up to October 7th.
Well, nothing, to my mind, justifies what happened on October the 7th.
Nothing justifies what happened before October the 7th, Piers. This is the exact point.
These
So you're
arguments
talking to a
can be
man.
shot
I don't know
back.
what answer you expect from me, because let's forget the fact I'm a Muslim. You're talking to a man who is fighting oppression to the best of his ability because he believes that the people in charge of the world are enslaving us all, to the point where I detriment my own life. I end up in a jail cell because I'm speaking against oppression. Then you're asking me what I would do if my family was blown to pieces.
You're not in a jail. Hang on.
You're asking me what I would do if another government came along and blew my family to pieces?
You weren't put in a jail cell because of any oppression.
Absolutely, I was.
No, you weren't.
Of course
you
I
were
was.
put in jail cell because you've been accused of serious sexual crimes.
I would not have been accused if I was not monumentally successful in speaking the truth.
Let me ask you again. It's a simple question. Some
that
people
is
can answer
oppression.
it straight
It's
away.
false
Because
imprisonment.
Palestinians people I've had on my program, many are very quick to say absolutely. Do you believe Hamas are a terror organization?
And that's a very interesting question, but I think you're peddling asininities.
Well, just answer the question.
Yeah.
Could somebody do me a favor? Google asininities and find out if it's a
I
word.
know what it means.
If it's not, make
If
sure.
Hamas is a terror organization on the principle that they have attacked civilians, the IDF is also a terror organization. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't, it's a two-way street. That kind of definition cannot only apply to one entity and not apply to the other. And both have their motives. You can say, the motives are different. But so motives make it different and okay for killing civilians.
Yeah. Andrew made a good point. You can't start in the middle.
Yeah.
This whole thing goes back to the 40s and even before that, with all the different Israeli movements to build a land where Jews can go and live. So it's so much more deeper than October the 7th.
Yeah, they were thinking of
Doesn't really
different
make sense.
locations actually aside from Palestine.
Like Uganda, Kenya, some other places.
Like Argentina as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. A lot of multiple different places.
Yeah,
Where they were
considering establishing a Jewish homeland. It wasn't just Palestine. You guys have to think, is that all right? You can just ship them off and just pour all these. Look at how the world operates now. We don't like taking immigrants in just from everywhere. No country does. Every country is very tough on immigrants. There's a reason. Because you have your own nation. Why would you just take an influx of people, It's a difficult thing to input into a different country. So, yeah.
It's added to Webster on top G's orders.
Okay, just are they a terror group?
You're peddling asininities because I'll tell you why, Piers. Let me answer the question.
No, I'm not.
Of course you are.
It's a simple question.
That's like me asking.
I'll tell you why I asked. Because the UK, where you were born, prescribes Hamas as a terror
They
organization.
also prescribe me as dangerous to children in schools. Let me explain something to you, Piers.
You're not prescribed as that.
If I were to sit here and say, is stealing wrong? And you'd say yes. And I go, but what if the person stealing is trying to feed their family and if they don't, their family are going to die? Is it still wrong?
Yeah,
You're trying to take a
you're
very
equating-
nuanced and complicated argument and reduce it down to one sentence, which is failure.
You're trying to equate stealing with a mob of terrorists breaking over a border, going to peaceful...
Is that what Israel did?
Wait a minute.
A mob of terrorists breaking over a border
Let me finish.
and killing people. Is that what Israel did?
Going through a border on October the 7th.
Oh, October the 7th.
Massacring young people at a festival, massacring families in their homes in a kibbutz, setting fire to them, cutting their heads off, killing babies.
Oh, killing 40 babies.
A lot of the stuff he's citing
Were the babies
has actually
vaccinated?
been stated as not true or factual information. Like the killing,
and also
beheading babies.
Footage of Israeli soldiers killing the people in a festival, right? They killed their own citizens. There's footage of them shooting citizens.
Wow. I didn't know
They
that.
killed their own people.
No, there's actually
Israelis kill their own people too.
No, there's a policy in their war tactics where if an Israeli looks like an IDF or a soldier or personnel looks like he's about to be captured or taken into enemy control, that it's kind of justified and encouraged to eliminate that soldier going to the other line, so that they don't be used as kind of like a bargaining tool.
But why would you kill your own person for that? That is so wrong.
I don't know how active that is, but I've heard and I've read before.
But they actually killed their own people for being at the festival or something like that. It's all over.
I mean, look at how they're treating the hostages. The hostages and the Israeli citizens themselves are very angry with how Israel has kind of responded to the hostage situation. How slow they've been, kind of just allowing them to remain over there, not going in and just ripping them out.
Just using it to their advantage to
and
go
also,
crazy.
Yeah, indiscriminately bombing, knowing they have hostages. That's pretty wild. It's forget even the Palestinian civilians they don't care about. You don't even care about the hostages? You're just ready to bomb them all?
flippant.
I'm not being flippant. The point I am
I
making...
don't find that funny.
No, but the point I am making is that the media lies, firstly.
No,
Secondly...
I can ask you about different things at the same time, right?
Sure.
So I'm asking you, first of all, specifically, what is your reaction to what happened on October the 7th?
Sure. I'll answer the question professionally. I do not condone the loss of human life on either side. I think anybody doing anything which directly damages civilians is disgusting and abhorrent. Right. However, I would be an amateur if I could not sit and pretend I do not understand the motivations behind either side. This is not even me taking a side. I understand why Israel is doing what it's doing. I understand why Palestine is doing what it's doing. However, I still call the Israeli actions absolutely abhorrent and genocidal.
Okay, we're going to come to Israel's actions, I promise you. We will ask that question specifically. But in terms of what Hamas did...
he always wants to establish that point first. You kind of snare your interviewee that way because you kind of force them into kind of coming to a conclusion where you kind of already give Israel the upper hand in the context of the whole situation by saying, okay, are Hamas terrorists? If you say no, then you look like a terrorist sympathizer. If you say yes, then you kind of give a green light to what Israel is doing. Not to say even if they are like just fully terrorist organization, unlike the IDF, who are just the heroes of the modern day, right? If that's your kind of perception of the world, right? That still doesn't give a right to indiscriminately bomb civilians at this kind of level. This is just, I mean, you could make an argument for, okay, let's say 90% you got are Hamas, but 10% were civilians. Not to say that that should be okay, but like that's more understandable than 100-to-1 ratio or 100, like 99 are Palestinian civilians and 1 is a Hamas guy. And most of those are kids. That's just an insane figure that you cannot rationalize, you cannot defend. That's just bloodshed. Yeah. It's just murder. That's what it is.
Question because once
it's not really.
It is.
No, it's a very straightforward question.
Because you're the person who would have called Nelson Mandela a terrorist while he was still in jail, and one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
I wouldn't
for
have
me
called
to
him
answer
that.
the question, yes, you would have. For me to answer the question, I have to be very professional, Piers. For me to sit on the outside in Romania with no personal involvement in Israel-Palestine, it's easy for me to say yes, it was an act of terror. However, if I was in Gaza, if I was in an open-air prison, if my family had been annihilated by bombs from the sky, if everybody I knew had suffered the loss of a loved one, if I had no chance of any kind of freedom or democracy or standard of life, would I believe it was an act of terror, or would I believe it's an act of resistance against oppression? Right. You have to be very careful how you answer these questions.
So what do you think?
I think I understand.
It's kind of like how the Israeli citizens are handling the situation because they were attacked. You see Israeli citizens just like, on every social media platform, they're saying, oh, we want all the Arabs dead. Not even Palestinians, they say all of them. They're all animals, they're all backwards. Well, we like that Israel is bombing them all. Some people, like, I'm just talking about civilians here. They don't have like a really, like, they're a horse in the race and just, random people. But like, it shows people's mentality, especially the civilians living in that land, right? I'm sure there are some Palestinians that think the same way. Why though? Because you have to ask yourself the question. It's not just this black and white situation here where it's, okay, Hamas attacked October the 7th. Therefore, these Israeli civilians feeling this urge to wipe them all out is justified. No, that's also an extreme reaction. Like Hamas, one could say that was also an extreme reaction, right? One cannot just pretend like that wasn't an extreme reaction. Launching rockets indiscriminately into Israel, killing civilians is also wrong. We're Muslims. We're not going to sit here and just try to like play, some kind of like shady game here. We're going to be direct. Hamas doing that is wrong. Killing civilians is wrong, right? But if you're going to go ahead and give yourself the why, and there's a reason Israel is doing it because of this, why are you not doing the same for Hamas, right? And if you want to call them a terrorist organization, call the IDF a terrorist organization. Remain consistent. The logic can be applied both sides. And right now it can be applied to the IDF and Israel 100 times over. But you guys are not prepared to be consistent.
When you take people and put them in such an inhumane condition. For anybody to sit and say that you're going to take people and put them in absolutely inhumane conditions and give them no standard of life, and they're not allowed to ever fight back, or they are terrorists.
But I can agree with you.
Anyone who does that is an amateur.
I can agree with you that the plight of the Palestinians for many decades has been absolutely shameful.
So what did we think was going to happen, Piers?
No, nothing justifies what happened on October 7th.
So what are they supposed to do?
Nothing.
So what are they supposed to do?
That was an act of medieval barbaric terrorism. Nothing justifies it.
Did they suffer acts of medieval... Did they suffer acts of medieval barbaric terrorism before that date? Yes. And it's unfortunately an eye for an eye in this world.
Tell me-
I'm not condoning.
give me-
I'm being a professional and answering
Give
to
me
you
one
why it
example.
happened.
Give me one example of
And
where
Piers is gonna pretend
Israel,
like he doesn't know the issue
without
now.
any
Nakba,
provocation,
the fact
went
that
into
the illegal
a
Israeli
specific question.
settlementation.
Went into Gaza and massacred 1,500 innocent people.
They kill innocent
cutting their
civilians in the
heads
West
off,
Bank and Gaza every
taping
single
and
year. Kill
boasting about
fishermen.
what they've done
Shoot
back
the
to their
press.
families in
What are you
Israel,
talking about?
kidnapping Holocaust survivors. Bringing them, they wouldn't have, of course, done that in their case, kidnapping old grandmothers and bringing
What
them
about
back
the
to
Palestinian
Israel,
soldiers that they're
kidnapping
dragging through
babies,
the street
kidnapping
naked?
children.
You seen those
When has
videos?
Israel actually gone in and done something?
on that.
on the scale of October
Wow,
7th?
even shooting children. They'll shoot children.
Give me one.
In
Outside of
2014,
war
they were-
context, just
No, no,
You know what,
indiscriminate.
Piers, let me tell you something.
I'm not talking
an
about.
expert. No,
I'm not
let me
talking
answer.
about. Well, they were
Let me-
categorized as retaliation for rocket strikes, and there's an arguable point, as there is, for example, I'm vehemently against the expansion of the settlements on the West Bank.
Okay, so you gave your
I
own
think there are
example.
legitimate questions about the proportionality of Israel's response here.
Yeah,
but in
legit-
terms,
So what's the
but in terms
proportionality
what
of someone
Hamas
stealing your
perpetrated
land en
on October the
masse?
7th, there is no instance of Israel doing that to the people of Gaza.
First
And you
things
have to
first.
accept that. If you don't accept that, you're either deluded or you're deliberately not wanting to say the obvious, which is that was an act of terrorism, because you're concerned about upsetting people in Palestine. Is that the case?
Let me go back to my first point when I said you're peddling asininities. The reason I said that is because to look at a situation, no matter how heinous, and to ignore all of the context and pretend that you do not understand why said situation happened
Nothing
is
justifies
asinine.
terrorism on that scale. Nothing.
Is asinine.
No, it's not.
All right,
It
it
is.
is.
Let
Because
me
it's
tell
not
you-
about justification.
let me
Piers.
tell you why.
Piers, it's not about justification.
Let me tell you- no,
it's
no.
about understanding the realities of the world.
Let me tell you
9,000
the world.
children
Hamas
dead.
came to power in
9,000
2005.
Palestinian children dead.
Hamas's initial
Is that
founding
justified?
charter made it clear that they are for the eradication of Israel.
Just to get a
And
few
on October the
Hamas.
7th,
Or probably
they
creating
prove what
more
that
in the
means
process.
Is they will kill every Jew they can get their hands on.
Let me
They are
ask you guys a
exercising-
question, and I wonder if someone can ask Piers this. If the answer to get rid of Hamas is to kill everyone, all the civilians in Gaza, is it justified? Is that a proportionate response? Is that all right? Because there's no line. 9,000 kids dead for some people still isn't a convincing factor that this is too much. How much is too much? I want to ask you guys who are supporting Israel, if Israel wipes out every single citizen in Gaza, effectively getting rid of all of Hamas. There's no more Hamas, right? Let's say they just get rid of everybody in Gaza. Is that all right? I want to know if that's your stance.
Existential threat to people in Israel and to Jewish people. And that is, I'm afraid, the purest personification of a terror group. I also think by doing what they did, as they have done since 2005, they weren't representing innocent Palestinian people in Gaza.
Who are suffering now.
They knew, yes, but Hamas knew when they did what they did that Israel would respond the way they did and that thousands of innocent Palestinians would get killed. They knew that, and they still did it. So my question for you is, why can't you, which is my position on this, is very straightforward. What Hamas did was an act of terror, an absolutely despicable act of terror, and should be called exactly what it is. And they are now demonstrably a terrorist group. That is why they were rightly prescribed that by the UK and America and other countries. And to try and pretend they're not makes you sound like Jeremy Corbyn. I can't think of a worse insult to throw at you, right? So
I don't think me and Corbyn agree on
but
that.
I also think there are legitimate questions to come about the way Israel's responded. We can come to that. But I just want to ask you one more time. Is what Hamas did on October the 7th an act of terrorism?
I think, Piers, it is peddling asininities for you.
I'm glad that
pretend
Andrew's not
that
buckling.
enslaving
You sound like
people
Jeremy
are-
Corbyn.
breaking
No, let me
down
answer
under
the
this
question.
15
repeated
times
tactic.
you refuse to answer the
Let
question.
me answer the question.
You're now
Because
I'm not
well,
refusing.
it doesn't even matter how you really answer that. If you kind of set the stage in that way, then the narrative is in your control. This is a chess game, honestly. It's not as simple as it may appear. It appears this question.
Andrew's a chess master.
Oh my god. Top G, you would say.
You're now
If you
about
look-
3 or 4.
If you look,
Are they a terror group or not?
they're one team's freedom fighter, and they're deemed a terrorist
What do
group.
you think?
I think that if you lock people in an open-air prison and steal their land, they're going to retaliate.
So they're not a terror group.
I think they're going to retaliate.
They're not a terror
See,
group.
look, he's
One
not
team's
going to
terrorist
budge.
is
Okay,
another
we're
team's
now up to
freedom
about
fighter.
8. Are they a terror group?
And also, another thing I want to make clear to you, Piers.
Only Jeremy Corbyn has done this.
Done what?
Refused to answer the question.
I think that what they are doing is seemingly deemed an act of terror by the people that the terror...
Don't use weaselly words.
They're not weaselly. Of course the Israelis think they're
It's
a
not
terror group.
Weasley.
And of
He's
course
giving
some-
you a perception. You have the Israeli perception.
You have to look at everything. They can't just... He's just disregarding what Andrew Tate is saying because he's not saying they are a terrorist.
Yeah.
When he's saying correct statements.
Right.
There's a single viewpoint. They're looking at things black and white. Then Piers won't say the IDF are terrorists when they're killing more people.
Right.
For the last 100 years. It doesn't make any sense. There's no consistency in the arguments.
He's being very unfair because he's wanting Andrew to say something very specific, but he won't address Andrew's points.
Yeah, when anyone asks Piers Morgan, are IDF terrorists, he doesn't give a clear answer either.
Right. Well, he told Mohammed Hijab no. Which, even though he gave a clear answer, it's just dumb. Exactly. You're just like completely wrong. Because now you're...
Then the logic is very inconsistent.
Exactly. Piers just kind of trapped himself. Either you remain consistent and you have to... I mean, because you can... It's undeniable. Like, based off his own logic. Hey, you cannot kill civilians in this manner. It was unprovoked, yada, yada, yada. Israel has been doing that for 70 years. So whatever Hamas did is not technically unprovoked. It's kind of a response, or it is a response, just like you're claiming that what Israel is doing is also a response. If that is okay, just because it's merely a response, then they would put them on equal footing with Hamas. But it's not even equal footing because they have caused far more devastation and murder and destruction and killing than Hamas has. So Israel is far worse, actually, in reality. But to Piers, he should understand that they're worse. He's being very inconsistent, and people can see this. People are not dumb. Well, some people.
Of course, the Palestinians think they're freedom fighters. It's stupid that you're asking the question.
Most of the civilized world thinks they're a terror group who committed an act of terrorism. It's not difficult. What they did was an act of terrorism.
And I think that if Israel continues to conduct acts of
I'm going to
terrorism on the Palestinian people, they're going to do nothing but strengthen the reaction.
That's a different conversation I'm about to have with you about Israel's response. But before I get there, one more time.
And actually, most of the world, most of the general regular people, whenever you see people, there's way more support for pro-Palestinian causes. Maybe the leadership of a country will be pro-Israel because their leadership, they get support and power and money. But there's so many like sports stadiums, marches, any event pro-Palestinian because of what's happening. Even more actors and stuff are coming out now. There's so many more people that are outspoken for the Palestinian cause. The general people, we're not talking about leadership that gets corrupt and money and stuff like that. So this is Piers.
That's a very solid point, actually, because like you mentioned, just because the civilized world technically supports Israel,
the world leaders,
leaders, but the population of those countries, majority support Palestine.
Because the Palestinians are regular people, just like every other regular person that lives in any country.
Yeah, they have the basic human decency to realize what's happening to them is clear oppression and no overreaction.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, even a lot of the people that are hesitant to be forthcoming in what they truly think is because there's actually negative consequences for speaking about the Israel-Palestine issue in support of the Palestinians. We had our video removed. If you are just a U.S. citizen, you could lose your job based on just saying something like "Free Palestine" or the Gazans have the right to live. You're not even saying anything pro-Hamas. You're just saying, hey, they're being bombed too much. They're being killed. They're being wiped out, right? Saying that can make you lose your job. You can get, boycotted. All these kind of things.
Yeah.
So that should show you whenever they're trying to control people like that and control the narrative, that should show you they're trying to hide stuff.
Is Hamas a terror group who committed an act of terrorism?
I think that when you lock people in an open-air prison, you're going to have to expect
you're not going to
retaliation.
Because
I think you tried 9 times already. Why would you think?
If you don't mind me saying, I think it's spineless.
Sure.
I do. You sound like Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, that is an insult.
Did you see my interview with him?
No.
Right. 15 times last week, I asked him the same question. 15 times he prevaricated and wouldn't answer. Eventually, when someone does that enough times, you know what they really think.
Okay.
You don't think they're a terror group.
Let me answer.
You don't think they're a terror group.
No, what I think is this.
Because I'd be really curious what you think an act of terror is if it's not massacring 1,500 innocent people, including Holocaust survivors, kidnapping babies, decapitating people, cutting their limbs off, raping women.
Yeah.
And all this was proven false, right?
And raping women, decapitating.
40 decapitated babies, that was proven false in the last few days.
Right.
Everything was proven false. Biden lied about seeing those pictures.
Yeah.
Everything is false. And even Al-Shifa Hospital, I think they said there were already tunnels there for previous events.
An elevator shaft.
But there's nothing there.
Yeah, my guy pointed to an elevator shaft and a calendar and said that's proof.
They pointed to curtains with nothing behind them to say people hide there or something.
So dumb.
Everything. It's just what is this, man? It's so dumb.
We're entering an age where we see people using their mind and people just like mindlessly follow.
They just put out propaganda, then people believe it. They don't think critically.
There's a huge interest backing Israel. You guys don't think the U.S. I'm really kind of blown away with some of y'all's trust in the government and also legacy media, because a lot of you sane people who support Israel and every other matter would be so skeptical of what the government wants you to believe and support and what the popular media is trying to get you to believe. But then you just are completely two-faced with this Israel-Palestine issue. You're somehow justifying the annihilation of 9,000 children and the illegal taking of their land, acting like Hamas just shot out of because they were bored right into Israel. But then Israel doing the same thing 100 times over, probably 4 times worse than 100 times into Palestine. That's justified. You guys are not understanding. Oh, hold on a second. These very same news outlets and countries that are supporting Israel have an interest with Israel. They have relations. They would want to make them appear to be good and righteous and the ones who are correct in this conflict or war. You guys aren't asking yourself those hard questions. Just question your beliefs.
Talk about missing limbs. We're going to talk about that when we talk about what Israel has done.
But when we get there, it'll be in the context of you not admitting that was an act of terror.
Well, let me answer the question for the final time.
So stuck on setting the stage.
And as a realist, sometimes you do not come to the conclusion of labeling good guys and bad guys. The world is not black and white.
Hamas are bad guys.
No, the world is not black and white. The world is actually very gray. Anybody who sits and thinks there's clearly a good guy,
there's nothing gray about
guy, and clearly a bad guy does not understand how the world works. And as a realist, what you do is you look at scenarios and you understand why they happen, how unfortunate they are, how unfortunate the loss of human life is, how civilians die on both sides, how innocents are dying in a chess game played by the elites on both sides. Both sides, you have innocent people who didn't even vote for the person making the decisions, who are ensuring their death, signing their death warrants. It's unfortunate on both sides. But listen, sir, you would not advocate Russia doing any of the things to Ukraine that Israel is doing to Palestine. You would not sit here.
Russia has been doing exactly that.
Russia has not done a fraction of the things to Ukraine that Israel has done to Palestine.
Russia illegally invaded a sovereign democratic country and has committed a barbaric rampage, trying to seize as much of Ukraine as it can, bombing maternity hospitals, killing innocent women and children.
What the hell? The hypocrisy is wild. Oh, but Russia went in and illegally invaded this sovereign country and bombed hospitals. Israel, illegal settlements, bombing hospitals, bombing children. The civilian casualties already more than the entire war of Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, that's a good catch there.
Wild.
It doesn't make sense.
Some kind of
this is genuine
equivocation of this.
I will. A Hamas rocket, a tiny Hamas rocket that can make a pothole in the road, and then they get hit back.
Really, honestly, have you seen this impact of their strikes?
Ukraine sent a drone and it hit the Kremlin. A drone attack. It did nothing. It damaged some shingles. If Russia decided to then respond with a missile attack on a hospital and annihilate 800 people,
it has been.
Do you think that would be allowed?
That's exactly what it has been.
Would you advocate for that?
Have you seen?
Would you support that?
Have you seen the state of Mariupol, which they leveled to the ground?
The Ukrainians did level it. Correct.
No, the Russians.
2014.
The Russians leveled Mariupol.
And my question to you is, would you advocate those reactions? Let me ask you another question, Piers. This is a genuine question. Let me ask you a question because I want to understand your point of view.
It's actually my interview of you.
Yeah, but you tried to understand mine. I just want to understand your point of view. If I believed, or if Israel believed, that one of the people in your house was a terrorist and decided to destroy your entire house and kill your entire family, would you sit and say, well, maybe there was a terrorist inside. I accept that. Or would you be enraged? Genuine question.
I don't think you can take an individual person's
response.
He's
dodging. It's a bunch of. What about you guys? Would you you guys who are okay with what's happening to the Palestinians being bombed like this? It's easy when it's someone else. It's easy when it's not your family. It's easy when it looks like a statistic. But ask yourself this: if the same condition was in your city, there are terrorists here. Would you be okay with your own government wiping you out, bombing all of you collectively? You would not, man. You wouldn't.
Individual people in Gaza, individuals with thoughts and dreams and aspirations which are being annihilated. 15-year-old girls without legs because of cruise missiles. They are individual people. They're not cattle, Piers.
Let's come to that.
They're people.
Right, and so were the people in Israel on October the 7th.
And that's why it's so heinous, which is my exact point.
But not heinous enough to reach your bar of terrorism.
It's not about reaching bar of terrorism. It's understanding why things happen.
By not saying it, you've made your position clear, just as Jeremy Corbyn did. And to pretend you're any different is ridiculous. Let's move on to Israel's response, because there are legitimate questions about this. Hamas embeds itself, 35, 40,000 terrorists in my estimation. You can call them whatever you like. And they're embedded amongst the civilian population, predominantly in northern Gaza. We know from intelligence over the last 20 years, which you won't believe because the Matrix has made it all up.
Correct.
We know from intelligence that historically Hamas likes to embed itself, particularly around things like schools and hospitals and mosques, because that makes it more difficult.
That's a pretty clever statement.
The Israelis attack. Yeah. Now,
they say
Israel has
where's the
killed
proof?
nearly
Shifat
12,000
hospitals
people.
shown
in its
to be
response,
complete
right? There are many
joke.
people around the world demanding a ceasefire who think that is a ridiculously disproportionate response to what happened. Well, it was genocide. They would want to kill everyone in Palestine. They don't.
They just want to drive them all out.
Whereas Hamas do want to kill every Jew. That is actually what
who's actually killing?
You know what's actually
who's actually
You've
wiping
spoken
out
about this subject with people more who actually understand the conflict better than I do. Mohammed Hijab understands it better. Low-key understands it better. I'm talking from a very general humanistic perspective because I don't understand the absolute intricacies like they do.
Do you know what genocide means?
Of course I do.
Right. Genocide means you want to eradicate an entire people based on race or ethnicity. Israel clearly doesn't want to do that to the Palestinian people.
Clearly not.
If it did, it wouldn't tell a million of them, as it turned out, who moved south. Now, there are arguments about whether
to attack them as they moved.
Well, some people got hit as they moved.
Oh, some people got hit.
Yes.
Some people got hit.
You know what,
You know
Andrew?
what happens?
You know what, Andrew?
Wait till it's your son.
You know what,
Wait till it's your
I
son.
agree.
That
And you know
makes
what,
no
Andrew?
sense.
War is horrific. It's
'cause
horrific.
war's
The
horrific,
question
that's
is
the excuse.
it a just war for Israel to go after Hamas? And if it is, and you believe as I do, Hamas has to be got rid of, how do you do that? If you don't do it the way Israel is doing it, how do you get rid of that terror group? Now, you won't agree with anything
It's
they're
insane
doing.
because Gaza is so small. If you were on the southern tip of Gaza, you would hear all the devastation in the northern part where this is all taking place.
Damn.
Like it's smaller from like, Sugar Land to Greater Heights.
That's not that far.
You
if
could
you have
see
like
it.
clear land, you can see it.
Yeah.
Not like trees or roads or anything.
Yeah. And it's like the width of Gaza is 5 miles. Something like
Nothing.
that. Yeah. Obviously the
It's like an
length
hour run. This my calculation.
cardio master.
You can't even categorize them as a terror group.
No, the reason I won't agree with him is because I'm a human, Piers. And please let me answer this without being interrupted. You didn't answer my earlier question for a reason because you knew that you couldn't answer it without
Which
proving my
question?
point. The question about the fact that if they decided to cruise missile your house because they thought somebody inside was a terrorist, you would not accept the loss of your family that you have raised. You would not accept that.
Of course I wouldn't.
Okay, absolutely. So let me answer this as a professional. What's funny is I'm a humanist. Like I said,
Professional what, by the way?
the professional. Please let me answer.
What are you? What are you speaking? You say you're speaking to professional.
And I'm talking about this from a humanistic perspective, right? And like I said, you've talked to people more knowledgeable than me on the details of the subject.
Right.
Listen to me very carefully. I thought we lived in a democratic society. You just had 35,000 Hamas terrorists, and this is the thing that's most upsetting to me. This is what genuinely upsets me. Israel intelligence will say a guy's a Hamas terrorist. Has that guy gone to a court of law? Has there been a democratic process? Has he been proven to be a terrorist? No. They've just decided from their intelligence that couldn't see an invasion coming from hundreds of miles away. So this intelligence is
Actually, no.
It's not great.
No.
So they've decided this person might be an intelligence without court case, without any kind of democratic process. And because of that, they've decided to annihilate civilians along with him. And it's all just collateral damage and nobody should care. That is not a humanistic perspective. And that is disgusting. And any person in the West who is advocating for that is a hypocrite. Because if it was turned on them, if the American government said, we think the person in your shopping mall, one of the people you were shopping alongside in the mall, might have committed a crime. We didn't take them to court. We think they might have. So we killed your whole family. Get over it.
So the last time
is a clown and a hypocrite.
So the last time.
What do you expect full-grown men to do?
I'm about to respond.
What do you expect full-grown men to do when you kill all of their families and leave them locked in an open-air prison?
Let me respond.
Honestly, what do you expect? You caging animals not going to hiss and bite and scratch?
They already live in like poverty. They can't really do anything. They have no jobs. They're in an open air prison.
Yeah.
So if your family and many members of your family have been killed, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, they desperately try to do something to just end the cycle of spiraling down.
Even people in America or any society that don't have much to do, they join the army.
Yeah.
That's what people do when they have nothing to do. They join the army because they have nothing else going for them. Now imagine if your family was unjustly killed. Not that we are advocating for any terrorism, but what else are you even going to do in your life? How can you even live? And they're individuals like you and I. you have to like
try to relate to them.
Yeah, you have to like
put yourself in their shoes.
Emotionally feel what they would feel.
Like we can put ourselves in Israel's shoes, which gives a justification to bomb 9,000, kill 9,000 children, right? Why? Why is one side all right and the other not? Why?
Jewish people faced an existential threat was in World War II. And the Nazis, who wanted to take over the world and kill every Jewish person, the Nazis were ultimately defeated by Winston Churchill leading the Allies. And Winston Churchill, in the process of defeating the Nazis, killed a lot of German innocent civilians in the process. Do you think that was justified?
Let me ask a question.
Was it? Well, no,
that's like saying, was it good or bad? That's a very gray question. The outcome was good, but the way that happened was clearly not right. Well, that's why you're asking. You know it in your heart. That's why you're asking that it was messy. Meaning that there probably was a better way to go about it. That's your answer.
Questions. Was it justified?
Sir, I believe, and let me just get this right in my head.
Yeah, think about it.
No, I don't need to think about your question. I believe that the Nazis, which were obviously heinous, I'm not advocating anything they did, it's disgusting.
Modern day Zionists.
I'm glad we beat them. I'm actually a huge
Were they
fan.
terrorists?
Yeah, they were.
Right.
So I believe that they
So
were,
when you massacre Jewish people, you're terrorists.
when
Except when you do it in Israel.
When you try and conduct genocide on a populace because you don't want them on land you say is yours, then you are terrorists.
It's exactly what Hamas did on October
Exactly
the 7th.
what Israel had did before that.
So you've literally just described what Hamas do.
You just described what Israel do. They're trying to genocide the Palestinians as we speak. And this is the exact point.
So Israel...
No, but to sit here...
Hang on, so you think Israel are terrorists?
I think that what they're doing now is disproportionate and genocidal.
Yes,
terrorism.
It's genocidal, so I guess that makes it terrorism. It's
Right,
genocidal.
so they're terrorists for responding to an act of terror.
No,
but the
man,
people
their
who
whole
committed the act of terror
history.
are not
And yes,
terrorists.
actually, with this response.
You see the problem with that
It's not
argument?
a justified response.
Really?
Even by UN standards,
Piers,
the war crime happened.
what they are doing now...
Slaughtering 1,500 people in the way they did it is not an act of terror by terrorists.
They turned back and
but a
slaughtered
response from
13,000
people
civilians.
receiving
Piers, why are
them.
you so
Rather than
blind,
a response
one-sided?
from the Allies
did you say
in World War
12,000
II
people?
to what the Nazis did, that apparently is the only act of terrorism.
Didn't you say 12,000 people the Israelis have killed thus far?
Yes.
I saw a video of a 15-year-old girl with no legs begging to die.
Yeah.
She was begging to die saying, I have no future because my parents are gone or my legs are gone.
It's
I have
horrific.
no future. No, but you say that, right? You talk about numbers and statistics and you say a few people got caught. You don't think of Gazans and you don't think of as Muslims and Palestinians as individual people.
Oh, yes, I do.
No, you
No,
don't.
you
Because
wouldn't.
they
You wouldn't be
did.
speaking this way. Look at him.
Andrew Tate's doing a great job here.
Yeah, he's killing him, dude.
Not literally though, like the Israelis.
Yeah, oh my god.
This is good so far.
I do.
If you did, you
Oh,
would
no,
not be happy with what's
don't you
happening
dare
here.
say that about me.
Well, okay, then don't
Sorry.
put
No,
them
no,
together
it's
in
just the way
numbers.
you
No,
read
I've
this
spoken,
sentence.
I've spoken for many years about the plight of the Palestinian people. I think it's outrageous that Israel has any control over their ability to function with water, with fuel, with other energy, and so on, and
Okay,
food, and so on.
that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
So
Like,
if you
take
were
it
in
to the
Gaza
next
as a
step and call out
Gazan
Israel for what they
male
are.
of masculine fighting age, and you believed the things you currently believe,
Yeah.
what would you do about it? I'm just asking.
You know what? Nothing justifies the terrorism we
I
saw on
never said
October
you'd be a
the 7th.
terrorist. I'm
Yeah,
asking
you
what
keep
you do.
jumping
No,
at
no.
that.
I understand why people in Palestine feel oppressed. I understand why they want freedom. I understand why they want the same rights as the people in Israel.
Then here's a perfect...
On
then
that,
here's the-
we
okay.
agree.
Absolutely,
But
we
nothing,
agree.
but nothing justifies what happened on October
Well,
7th.
here's
And
what
nothing justifies killing 9,000 kids with the hopes of getting rid of a couple of Hamas fighters.
Disagree, Piers, because as a professional, when we both agree on the point that the people inside of Gaza are being oppressed and that their life is being detrimented and that they have no way of getting out,
Yes.
we as a professional,
And I do agree with that.
I understand pressure cookers explode. You're pretending they shouldn't. You're saying that they should never explode. Nothing bad should ever happen.
Saying nothing
Right,
justifies
right.
terrorism.
You're
Should
so
feel that-
shocked and disgusted after you stabbed the cat in the cage for 5 minutes while it scratched back. Why did it scratch me? I only stabbed it 90 times with a fork, with a hot fork. Why did my cat scratch me?
That's actually a really good point. Like, it's like pulling a linchpin off a grenade and wanting it to not explode.
Exactly.
It has to.
It's a horrible thing if it explodes. Terrible thing. Your body will be blown apart. But will it explode? Yes. Right. That's what. Okay. Did Israel not explode? Did Israel not pop off and just start blowing Gaza to smithereens? But for some reason, that's all right. That's justified.
Yeah.
Hypocrisy. This is what you want to look at the definition of hypocrisy. It's this.
to subjugate them.
No.
Piers,
years,
Israel,
here's
and
my-
nothing happened.
No.
And I'm a realist to understand that pressure cookers explode.
No, you're not.
And that's what
No,
happened.
you're not.
We need a solution to the problem, or it will continue to happen.
You're not a realist because actually you are not accepting that what they did on October the 7th was an act of terrorism by terrorists.
Andrew
You won't
is giving
accept-
him
you
point
think
after
that
point
they're
after
freedom
point after
fighters
point, and
doing
Piers
something
just
counter-resistant.
like
And I
obsessed
say
with this
that
one
is
point.
ridiculous and shameful. That's the difference between us.
I understand that pressure cookers explode, Piers.
Right. So you think it's perfectly reasonable what happened.
Imagine
I think
hearing
it's
that without
reasonable.
any
I
context.
think it's a shame.
Natural consequence.
I think it's a shame.
A shame. That's
I
it.
think it's a shame that we're living in the world now where people are reduced to basically suicide to try and fight for freedom for their families if they have one left, because they all committed suicide. Those men who did that.
Well, the
'Cause
Hamas-
they didn't have a chance of survival. I think when you
Well,
oppress,
that's because they believe that they're martyring themselves and
no,
going to
it's
a
'cause
better
when you
life.
oppress people to the point where their family's dead and they have nothing to live for.
So
And
you-
I think that's a shame.
So do you support Islamic fundamentalism?
Absolutely not.
Do you support an Islamist?
I think we can stop here.
Yeah,
See if this video gets 100 likes, we'll do a part 2.
sounds good to me.
Yeah. I think Andrew made a lot of good points. I mean, he stood his ground.
Yeah.
I don't think he said anything that wrong. Like, nothing I could think of that wrong at all. Piers was very inconsistent and was caught out many times.
Right.
October the 7th is not the end all be all for any. You can just do anything you want in the world.
It's not even the beginning.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
he made a good point in the beginning too by framing it. You can't start the story in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's true. This conflict did not happen on October 7th, 2023.
The only ones who are being middle grounded and actually rational, when I've seen these kind of Piers Morgan videos, are those who are pro-Palestinian. They're the ones who are willing to go and take the step and say, yeah, okay, Hamas is not the right thing. Why don't you call it Israel though? You know, two wrongs don't make a right. These kind of arguments that indiscriminate killing of civilians, the retaliatory response from Israel is violating of international law. I mean, they're bringing up solid points. And Piers goes, October 7th, oh, it's a horrible barbarism, so Israel's our defense. Stuff like, honestly, we can see the hypocrisy. It's hypocritical, right? So just be consistent.
Yeah. I mean, even just like use your logical, rational brain. You can't just, if you support Israel for whatever reason, this response makes zero sense. There's honestly no sense about it.
Right.
I can't understand.
You're doing a disservice to
You're
humanity.
just dehumanizing other people. Yeah, like Andrew was saying, you're not thinking about people as individuals.
You're trying to back a world where this is acceptable to happen to any society. That's the catalyst. That if can happen to Israel and Palestine, it can happen anywhere. You're opening this kind of door of conversation on the global level of saying, hey, you know what? This can happen anywhere. If I live in California and there's a couple of terrorists, we can all be wiped out. Guys, wake up. You don't see what you're doing. You don't see what you're asking for. You don't think it can happen to you because you live maybe in the West or civilized society. You don't know, man. You don't know what can happen in history. You don't know what crazy groups are out there. You know what crazy people are out there, right? There's always a proper way to deal with things. And there's a lazy way to deal with things. There's an emotional way to deal with things. And it's not right.
Perfectly said, Rohaib. But yeah, let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Get this video to 100 likes. We'll continue with a second part, inshallah. Thank you guys for watching, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.